up, sports fans? It is Dave. It is Duncan. Back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. Not an album review, an EP review. Hold on.
See, I thought, what were you doing here, Dave? Are we changing it again? Are we changing the rules?
Just keep them guessing, Duncan. Keep them guessing.
Always on their toes.
Who are we? Who are these people? Why are they
You
talking
introduced us
about
at the start, so I mean,
fucking... Why are we talking about pickleball, Duncan? I don't know.
I don't know.
So, for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new EP from Nottingham Progressive Death Metallers, Beyond Grace. The band's new EP, Welcome to the New Dark Ages Part 2, will be released on November 22nd.
I think everybody say, "Welcome to the jungle. We have fun and games." Do a bit of that.
Oh,
You know how he does that
sexy
kind of
shoulder roll.
Well, he can't do that now. If he does that, he'll throw his hip out.
Yeah.
An old cunt.
Oh,
So-
man. I kind of feel embarrassed watching them now. It's like the voice is away, the body is away, the face was
I'll be
never there,
honest,
but-
I was fine until someone posted that meme where they were like that, why does Axl Rose now look like Mama Fratelli from the Goonies? And then I was like that, well, we'll just never be watching him again.
Poor Axel. So, with two highly rated albums already under their belt, Beyond Grace are currently in the process of recording and releasing their third album in the form of 3 digital EPs, with the whole trilogy set to be completed and released on CD LP as a single entity in early 2025. Building on the success of Part 1, Part 2 features 3 brand new original tracks inspired by the works of George Orwell, Augustina Bazterrica,
Nailed it.
Charlie Brooker, and more, which incorporate elements from all the band's influences from thrash to tech to hardcore to prog into one massively heavy hybrid. Lyrically, the EP addresses topics like systemic police corruption, cannibalistic capitalism, and the dark allure of mob justice. Having toured up and down the UK with the likes of Hour of Penance, Blood Red Throne, and the Monolith Death Cult, opened for living legends like Cryptopsy, Mithras, and Darkane, and shared stages with some of the absolute best of the British scene, Celestial Sanctuary, Rannoch, Cryptic Shift, etc. The band have also honed their live show into a lethally tight, relentlessly punishing machine, and will be hitting the road throughout 2025 supporting the release of the full album. Vocals for the EP were recorded at Stuck on a Name Studios in Nottingham, with drums recorded at Act Cool, London, and engineered by Paolo Canaglia. All songs mixed and mastered by Miroslav Boris Smith of Jigsaw Audio. Apologies if I've fucked up anyone's name.
There's at least about 4 or 5 horrible mistakes in there,
Yeah.
Dave. But you know what? We're Scottish. So
Well, this is it, Duncan. This is it.
it's my shield and I'm hiding behind it.
So we reviewed part 1 back in November 2023. Hold on, it's a whole year since we reviewed EP 1.
Yeah, it's been 1 year.
Which was also released with 3 original tracks. However,
Oh,
the EP also included a cover song, which wasn't released on Bandcamp due to, rights and all that kind of shiz, lawyer stuff. But it was on other digital streaming platforms like Spotify, for example. This EP also technically 3 original tracks, but there is a 4th track on the EP as well, another cover song, which won't be on Bandcamp, but will be on it's actually already on digital streaming. If you want to check out, it is out there now. The cover on EP1 was Peter Gabriel's Here Comes the Flood. On EP2 we have a cover of Fragile by Sting,
Roxanne!
originally released in 1987.
The power of Sting compels you. The power of Sting. I've been possessed by Sting, which means that I don't nut anymore. I just hold it in tantrically.
Oh god, we'll get into this thing.
It's no nut November with Sting. It's no nut
Ever.
decade. No nut never.
This is from his second studio album, Nothing Like the Sun.
No, it's nothing. It's a cover of Meshuggah songs, but played with high technical bass. And for some reason, the influence of African beats. I don't know.
Sting. I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie, because I'm pretty sure, beyond grace, if you're listening, you heard me say on our last review that you should cover "Easy Lover" by Phil Collins. All right, I put that out there.
Might still happen.
Where is it?
Like, listen, you don't.
Where is it?
Listen. You do not follow. Like, you, I'm telling you, you're like such a fucking amateur sometimes, Dave. You don't play a Peter Gabriel song, right, and then play a Phil Collins song right after it.
There's linkage.
It's almost as if you don't know there's tension there. It's almost
That's
as
a
if you've not been paying attention to history. Like, you have to. There's only one way to separate those two majestic musicians. Is Sting. You put Sting in between them. Sting will break up a fight. Look at him.
I will be docking this EP review 1 star for the lack of Phil on this release.
Oh, there's plenty of Phils on this EP.
We could have been 2 hearts living in just one mind, Duncan. Spending another day in paradise with a groovy kind of love.
Dave, you need to shut the fuck up, right?
Instead,
that's what needs to happen right now.
Instead of showing their true colours.
Oh, what are we doing here?
Alright, I'm out. You've given me a cover from a guy who looks like a fucking wasp instead. Which,
arguably one of the most important songwriters of the last 40 years.
He's a cunt, Duncan. He's a cunt.
You've been listening to the old Stuart on the drums. My favourite thing about like any of those videos, he did that drum wheel thing recently, is just how much he swears when talking about Sting. Like, imagine being on tour with him.
Yeah.
But then they say that, you know, tension makes great music. I'm sure that someone said that. That's why me and you have gold albums, Dave. Went platinum a while ago. It's all the sexual tension that's in the room. So yeah, they've covered Sting. It didn't surprise me that they went for Sting.
Okay. Well, I say we discuss the 3 originals, and then we'll come back to the cover song at the end.
You almost went a little bit fuck on leg on there. You were like, I say. I was like, where are we going? Listen here, boy. What is he doing? Yeah, but I think that was the approach we used last time.
I think
it worked for us well. That video is our 750th highest downloaded video we put out there, so the people out there loved it.
Clearly.
Let's not break the form.
Yeah, but it's not broken, Duncan. Let's keep going. I don't know.
Yep, the old adage: if it ain't broke, just keep going. Famous saying.
Oh,
Heard that all my life, man and boy. Well, listen, I know this is an EP, right? I know there's only 4 songs, but we cannot spend a whole fucking 10 minutes and not review it. Like, the band are going to not be happy about this one.
This happened the last time, Duncan. This happened the last time.
So far, we've fucked up every name in the PR statement. We've fucking chastised them for covering a Sting song and not taking your suggestion of Phil Collins. And now we're just on a shambles of a conversation.
Imagine the drum fill they could have had. That would have been class.
You know, in Phil Collins' house, it's called a Phil Steve. Steven, not a Phil Steve, a Steven. Fuck.
Why did I do this?
Fucking ruined it, man. Let's restart this recording and record another 9 minutes of junk. And the band will sit through. We'll put in the outtakes. The band will sit through that.
If there's no broken, just keep going.
If there's no broken, reverse over it. Welcome to the Dark Ages Part 2. 4 tracks, Dave.
Yes, Part 2, 4 track. So, EP1.
Yep.
It leaned pretty, heavy on the death metal side, as we know. Also been a little bit progressive, a bit technical, a bit groovy.
Yes, it did.
And EP2 kind of takes that cocktail of styles, and adds a couple of shots into the mix. I don't know why I'm sticking with this
Dave
analogy.
has not drank in a while, and you can tell he's forgotten how to talk about
I'm
alcohol.
drinking very interesting cola.
We've spoken about this before. The interesting element is cocaine, Dave. So we just substituted one habit for another.
I'm alcohol free, but not drug free.
Yeah, look, I think
Raging.
before we even get into the tracks, I think my concern when any band says we're doing a series of EPs, right, and then at the end it's going to be an album, my worry is that it can go one of two ways. The first way is what they do is they essentially go, well, here's the structure of the album, and we'll do like one song from the natural structure of the album, put that in EP1, and blah blah blah. So you're mixing it up, and there's not a cohesive listen throughout the EP.
Yeah.
The second concern is actually what you get is just groups of songs thematically on the EPs, which does not make an interesting album when it comes to an album because it's too disjointed. So I'll be honest, like when we finished the last review, the biggest trepidation I had was, are they just going to do, if this is their genre, if this is their style, are we just going to get that again twice in separate entities? And if so, I don't know what the merit of that is. Or is it going to be so off-piste with the sound overall that when it comes to the album at the end of it, am I going to be disappointed and favour those EPs for the box that each of them is in?
Yeah.
So it really is risky, especially doing three. Most bands tend to do about like two longer EPs and it becomes an album. You very seldom have bands releasing like three EPs unless you're distant, releasing three EPs and then putting them into an album.
Yeah.
So I think you are right though. I think this does feel like a continuation with extra elements, but there isn't like a massive curveball here where I'm like that. Freestyle jazz, was that needed? You know what I mean? They haven't if anything, thematically it flows really well from the previous release.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. I actually think, having listened to this a good few times, I think I like this better than the first EP.
I think the mix between the tracks is more interesting.
I do as well. I think the balance here is slightly better. It's still punishing. It's like the riffs still attack with like precision and force. And like the last EP, it feels like there's a sense of urgency to it. And you feel that the intensity in the first two tracks. It takes like about 30 seconds for things to just completely heat up, and then the band are like kind of firing on all cylinders. But like the first EP, as I said, there's balance to this, and Beyond Grace do that by kind of weaving in these little clean sections here and there just to add a touch of like ominous atmosphere or a little bit of kind of dark melody, just to make the tracks feel a little bit less kind of linear overall. And vocally they use a similar kind of tactic, just dropping in a small like segment of clean vocals to break up the intensity of those like really kind of heavy gutturals from Andy. And track one is great. Like it gives you kind of all that you'd expect from Beyond Grace. It's heavy, it's technical. It's got a few kind of dynamic shifts just to kind of keep you engaged in the track. Track two though, The Killing Floor, might be my favourite so far from the two EPs. It's got such a groove. Like it's just really cool with like rhythmical switches, and really smart layers in the guitar work to add this feeling of like real kind of grand feel to the track. It reminded me a little bit of Ola England's band Feared, which is a kind of like Scandi, thrashy, death kind of groove type hybrid. But around the kind of three-ish minute mark, it builds into like a absolute kind of monster of a groove that wouldn't be out of place on like a Fit for an Autopsy album. It sounds huge, but they follow that up with like a real like this kind of onslaught of blasts and really kind of malevolent sounding riffs that had a tinge of like something like Hate Eternal or something like that. Just like a really cool mix of sounds happening on that track. I thought it was a real kind of standout on the EP. And then track three is almost the kind of reset where They drop the tempo a bit, introduce more of a cleaner kind of sound in the guitars and vocals as well. And I feel like it comes at a really good place in the EP after the first two. The first two tracks are fairly kind of ruthless opening tracks. You hear a bit more of a Black Crown Initiate kind of vibe on this one, just because there's a bit more melody in the guitars. I really liked it. I thought that side of the band really works. Like, we get a little bit kind of proggier. It's got a bit more of a hook to it with the increase in kind of clean vocals, but it still ends in colossal fashion. So although
clean vocals are they remind me of, can I remember the two vocalists from Sixth?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
the
Justin
one that does not the high pitched stuff, they does more of the, not Mikey, it's
Justin. Is it Justin?
Justin.
Yeah.
The one that does the kind of more avant-garde, almost kind of poetry, has a kind of bit of wobble, but his voice is a lower register. The melody on White Bear is like very much in that tone. I think it totally fucking works on the track, because I think it just opens, like you were saying, the guitar melodies, the lead work especially is really, really cool, but when that kicks in, it just adds like almost a kind of operatic feel to it. It just opens the sound completely up, which is very different from what comes before and very different from what comes after. It's a kind of nice way to finish it. And if we're removing those cover songs from the end and talking about how a composition and an album goes, that could be a closing track, or that could sit somewhere in the middle and be a really nice break point for something really intense right after. So
Yeah, actually, that track, that third track on the EP, grew on me like quite a bit from the kind of first time I heard it. Initially, when I heard the EP, I was like, "Oh, track 2 is the Killing Floor is fucking amazing, love that." But White Bear, it's kind of the kind of dark horse, but it's the White Bear. But it's kind of
Noah's Ark.
It's very, very close behind. The more I hear it, the more I enjoyed that track. It finishes in a very kind of satisfying way. So yeah, the first 3 tracks I thought were great. I really enjoyed them. And like we mentioned, the production on the first EP, it's the same team that's working on part 2. So there's a consistency there that follows kind of right through from that release to this one. This is like, the production on this is clean. Like, it's like you could like. It's like lick my fingers after a KFC clean, like that type of clean, you know what I'm saying? The guitars have got like, guitars have just got real kind of weight to them. When they're getting that kind of chuggy mode, like, it sounds great. The drums, I think I mentioned the drums on EP1, that review, but I really enjoy the drum sound on this. Again,
it's a really clicky synth that I really like. It's kind of old school, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, like when I say old school, I don't mean like 1980s. I mean like early 2000 death metal. You know, where that really clicky, triggery sound, which I kind of miss a little bit, because now everything is so overproduced. It sounds like every drummer's hitting things with a bass. Everyone's doing a clown from Slipknot. They're hitting it with fucking steel bats and shit. So
yeah, I really liked it. The bass as well. The bass doesn't get lost either. It sits perfectly balanced, and you can hear like every little kind of run that Andy plays, especially on White Bear, where it gets that bit proggier. The bass really kind of shines on that track. So yeah, I'm really impressed with the first 3 songs. Really enjoyed it. Anything else you want to add before we go to the cover?
No, I think you're right. I think, to me, the exciting thing is going to hear the position if they reorder these tracks when it comes to an album. I'm assuming they probably will. So far, if we're just talking about things that aren't covers, I kind of dig what these guys are doing, and it kind of feels like they've really elevated their game. And I can see why they've been out on tour with bands like Autopsy and stuff like that, because like I think live they'll just own this shit. So it's a really, really good listen. For me, I maybe favour White Bear over the Killing Floor a little bit more than you. I just switched onto that straight away, more because of the melody, because it stood out so much against what they're doing there. So yes, that's where we'll. Do we have to talk about Sting? We're talking about Sting. I can see it in your eyes.
Let's talk about Sting. The 1987 single, Fragile.
Don't drink coffee, I drink tea, my dear. I like my toast on one side. No one likes them. See, that lyric has always annoyed me.
All right.
I like my toast done on one side. That is a lyric, isn't it? Like, no one toasts one side. I'm an Englishman in New York. No, you're a cunt in New York, is what you are.
I told you.
I'm coming around to Dave's way thinking
There was early signs, Duncan. This guy was a cunt.
he doesn't toast on both sides. What a cunt. Yeah.
does that?
Is it safe to say I'm maybe a little bit more of a Sting fan than you?
Could be.
I love the Police, so like I grew up on the Police.
I don't mind the Police. I don't mind the
Right.
Police at all. Primarily probably because of Stuart Copeland, but
Everyone loves the Police because of Stuart Copeland.
yeah.
Even non-drummers love the Police because of Stuart Copeland, right?
But yeah, that's as a kind of drummer growing up. I love listening to him and watching him play.
He's got
After
a very unique style. It's
Yeah.
a very odd style. It's one of those. It's like a kind of Josh Freese style when you're watching him like that. Like his arms aren't moving right.
yeah,
Like you know what I mean? They don't move the way you're supposed to move. So, but he didn't play on Fragile. So
yeah.
no, instead we had a lot of flamenco guitars and a lot of Spanish influence.
Yeah, I like.
because
I kind of like how Beyond Grace never really go for the obvious choice of cover.
Yes.
Like, and we mentioned this the last time with the Peter Gabriel thing as well. Like that album, this track comes from. The Englishman in New York's on that album,
Yes.
and that is like probably the biggest single from that
Oh
release.
yeah.
But essentially, they've picked what is an acoustic track, really, that's got that kind of Latin American type vibe.
Put double bass pedals on it.
Yeah, the Beyond Grace version is neither acoustic or Latin inspired.
There is no flamenco in here at all.
Yeah, which is a little bit, I suppose, is a little bit different to the Peter Gabriel cover they did, because they, like the first part of that track, they kept quite similar to the original. Then it got like doomier and darker as it went on. This is like Sting with blast beats. This is just like, what the fuck?
You remember that band Eagles of Death Metal? Welcome this band, Sting with blast beats.
It is just like heavy as fuck from the get go, like fast, direct. There's a bit of like melody vocally just to signify that you're actually in the chorus, but
Yeah.
and I give it a bit of like likeness to the original, but for the most part it's just brutal, like absolutely brutal. And to be honest, Sting never sounded better like this. As I've said, didn't mind the Police. I've never really been much of a Sting solo guy fan. He's a cunt after all, but and he's no he's no Phil Collins, that's for sure. You know what I mean?
Oh, here we go. Huh?
But if he sounded more like this, then I'd be less inclined to call him a cunt. The track also, just while I remember, the track also finishes dead. No
Yes.
fade outs, which I had a gripe with on the last EP. Didn't like the quick fade out personally. This I enjoyed it. I thought the cover was really good. Again, they've nailed taking a track and just, you know, making it more Beyond Grace sounding than the original was. Anything you want to add on the old?
I'm maybe not as much a fan as you are.
Oh really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't really like this song anyway, if I'm honest. I think it's one of those Sting songs which I find wholly unremarkable. Like, whether
Yeah.
you like him or not, or whether you think he's a cunt or not, he's a very talented songwriter. And Fragile to me always kind of felt like one of those tracks which was like, I need 12 tracks. You know what I mean? Once it just felt like filler.
Yeah.
What they do is an interesting interpretation of it, but I feel that the original track is pretty much gone when I listen to this, which is kind of, I mean, there's no happy ground. Cover tracks are never great with me because either like it's so close to the original, what's the fucking point? Or you change it so much, what's the fucking point? So there's a very hard there's a fine line to hit with where I will gravitate to it. I like the Peter Gabriel cover mostly because, like you mentioned before, it started very much in keeping with the sound of the original and then switched things up. There is nothing about this that is really similar to the original at all. Even the melody is in a completely different cadence, and it's done as, you know, it's much faster. You know, it's very difficult to place. Had you just played this song for me and not told me it was a Sting cover, even though I know the original, I would not fucking know at all. So I'm maybe not as sold on it as much. Musically, it's fucking great.
Yeah.
But now that I know it's a cover of something else, I'm kind of... If I'd been willfully ignorant about that, I would have been fine. But now that I know that, I'm maybe less favouring it. It doesn't sour things because, as we mentioned before, our understanding is ultimately when the album comes out, these covers won't be on the album.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be an issue for me moving forward. And there's a little bit of an extra tidbit for someone to buy this album digitally and support the band. I'm all for that 100%. And I highly recommend you shell some money out and support this band. I, like you, even though I like Sting, I wouldn't have done a Sting cover. And I'm saying don't listen to Dave.
Phil Collins.
He's fucking Phil Collins. What I'm saying is level 42. Right. We're going in. Level 42 on the last EP, guys. You know you want to. And I'm not even going to go with the like super obvious one. I'm just going to say running in the family. Just do it. Just do it.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't be against it. That's what I'm going to say.
That's how you get Dave from. See that? He just dropped Phil Collins like a wet
Well, I mean,
bag of shite.
if you ask me to compare Phil and Level 42, then there's a clear winner there. That's Level 42.
Yeah,
I've only seen Phil Collins once, and I think
on his farewell tour, which went on for about 4 years, and then he gigged after it, didn't he? So
yeah, I saw him in Vegas, and then he came to fucking Scotland after his final tour in Vegas. And I think the ticket that the amount of money I paid for the ticket was probably the equivalent of all the tickets I've bought to see Level 42, which have been multiple.
Yes, and maybe again next year.
Maybe again next year, yeah.
You put it out there. Yeah, so I'm super curious to see how they run this out. They said that the album drops early 2025, so I'm assuming the third EP is basically the album.
I think so. Sounds that way.
And I, very much like yourself, will be here for it to review it when it drops. Well done, guys. Honestly, I love the concept. I love the scope. I love the sound. And I'm just eager to hear how it finishes. Just don't finish like a Blumhouse horror movie or a Stephen King book. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, final thing. Scores for part 2. I think this is better than EP1. I think it's a touch more varied. I think the songwriting feels a touch sharper. And I think overall it was, like, Sting cover aside, I think it was more memorable than EP1. I think there are moments on this that stay with you afterwards for longer. I gave the EP1 a 4 out of 5. I'm going to go a little step higher. I'm going to go 4.5 on this one, Duncan. What are you thinking yourself?
I'm going to come in with you, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I'm not going to penalise it. I'm not going to penalise it for the cover at the end because ultimately I feel it's a cover, right? So it's what I think of the original material, and it's an EP that every song is better than the previous one. It just builds momentum. So when it comes to the end track of their stuff, I am. So yeah, I'm going to come in with 4.5 as well, which means there is room for their final release.
Oh,
maybe tickle a 5.
Oh,
in the undercarriage. Oh.
Let's see. So Beyond
Get
Graves.
right in the fields of gold, Dave. Right in those fields of gold.
Son of a bitch. Welcome to the new Dark Ages Part 2. It's out on November 22nd. Links below to the band, to the Bandcamp, pre-order, all that sort of stuff you can check out. There's a couple of singles up already. Let us know what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and comments on the new EP. That is a review. Thank you for checking out. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.